Hello everyone! On this week's episode, I talk about macrame, knitting with dog hair, and my husband's socks. So if that is something that piques your interest, stay tuned and let's get started. Hi, my name is Tiffany and I'm the dyer and maker behind Latah Valley Fiber Co. You can find my shop online at latahvalleyfiberco.etsy.com. You can follow me on Instagram at latahvalleyfiberco, and you can direct message me at lvfiberco@gmail.com. So I thought I would just jump right into what I've been working on this week. This week I learned how to tie macrame. I think that's what that's called. Basically, it's a lot of knotting. You take rope and you do different kinds of knots, and that creates either this or this or this. These are just a few that I've done this week. So what I am using, a couple different things. The first one is the Bernat macrame, and this is, it has nylon in it, viscose, polyester, and recycled cotton. It doesn't actually say what the percentage is, so I don't know. But I got this variety in the natural, which is this one, as well as the gray. So my goal with this was to make keychains and see how they held up to a little bit more wear. The previous keychains or wristlets that I had made were made out of either wool or cotton. So I thought maybe I would try this cotton, but it's in a rope form, so maybe a little bit more durable. I don't know. Okay, so those are the first two. I also sampled, this is also by Lion brand, and it's the Macramé recycled cotton, and this one is in pink. This did come in a lot of different colors, but I had a project in mind for my mother-in-law, so I wanted the pink to give it a try out. So this one is 100% cotton. It's not plied on itself. It's just a lot of strings roped together. So I did notice that while I was tying the knots, this one would lose some of its structure. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. However, it worked great for this. So you make a lot of these knots, and then you fray the edges and cut it. This is supposed to look like a feather, and you know, it's okay. It could be better. But that's the pink one, and then I did the same in the natural color as well. So there you can see the knots and the fraying, which was kind of fun. So these patterns are on YouTube, and if you just type in like macrame keychain, they're one of the first ones that come up. It's a free tutorial. It's written out, but I couldn't pronounce the person who has the tutorial. So just put in that and you'll come to it really quickly. This one was also on YouTube, and this was my first knotting one, actually. And there is a technique to it, which I thought, oh, it would be a piece of cake. Well, no. It does take a little bit of skill to make the knots perfect and not sloppy. So this one you can kind of see is a bit sloppy. So I'll probably keep this one for myself. And then I did this one, just this one's not a pattern. It is basically a French braid, like how you would do your hair. And I wanted the two-tone, so I just put the 3 on there, and then yeah, I did it like a braid. So that one's kind of fun as well. That's pretty much all that I did with the macrame. I may or may not do more of the keychains. I did a market this weekend, and it didn't go as well as I had hoped. It was more of a farmer's market and less of a craft market or fair or craft show. And I feel like I might have done a little bit better because those bring in a very specific person looking for a very specific thing, and yarn would be one of those things at a craft fair. So I might look into doing a couple of those this fall and see how that goes versus a farmer's market. Okay, so that's it for the macrame. Last week was my birthday, and my husband got me this. This is a sock genie, basically. It has different measurements on it for foot size. It also has measurements for your needles as well as your hooks. So a lot of the time, if you have wooden needles, the millimeter size or the US needle size wears off over time. So it's handy to have this. You just stick your needle in the hole that fits the best, and that's your needle size. So I was going to demonstrate how you would use this on my husband's sock. So this is how far I've gotten on my husband's sock. You would put in down here at the 1 inch into the toe, okay, and then make sure it's nice and snug, and then you kind of want to pull just a little bit so that there's some tension on your fabric. So this is, let's see, just a little over 7 inches, which means I then started my heel. And that is what I did at 7 inches. And your heel is about 2.5 inches from the start to the finish. So you basically take your foot size, you subtract 2.5 inches, and that's where you start your heel. My husband is a size 10, so I am knitting him a 9.5. Mostly because I want that negative ease in there to give it some kind of form around his foot. Okay, so another way that you could use this is, say you have a child, my son for instance, you could lay this on the floor and have him put his heel right on the edge, and then lay his foot out and see where it comes to on the inch mark here. And then there you go. That's the size you knit. So I am excited to use this. I have knit gobs and gobs and gobs and gobs of socks. I've never had this. So I'm excited to see if it maybe streamlines the process a little bit better. We'll see. So yeah. So while we're on the subject of my husband's socks, I did a tutorial last episode on how I do this ribbing on the bottom of the foot. So I am including a little tutorial in this episode on how I start my shadow wrapped heel. The first part, you do 2 parts of it. There's one where you're decreasing as you do the shadow wrap, and then there's one as you're increasing as you do the shadow wrap. So I will link or put the tutorial in here or at the end, I'm not sure yet. So basically that's where I'm at. I've stopped knitting in the round so that I could work on the toe, which again is 2.5 inches. And you decrease the same amount of stitches on both sides, and then you have the equal number of stitches on the back that you don't work. So I am at the point now where I'm going to start picking up these stitches again and working them. And then once I've done that, I will attach again and start knitting in the round, and the heel will be done. So these are getting close. I should have them done next week. That'll be exciting. And the yarn I'm using again is the Patons Kroy sock in the colorway Clover. And I'm using 3.25 millimeter needles. Okay, I thought I would walk you through how I do my shadow wrapped heels. And I've already started the process. You can kind of see that here. So I thought I would take you along. I am purling back through to the other side. So shadow wrapped heel, you build up the one side, and then when you get to the number that you need, you turn your work and build up the other side of the heel. Okay. So I'm just purling along to the first stitch before the double stitches. Okay, here are my double stitches. This is a single, so I'm going to put that onto my right needle, pick up the stitch below, put that onto my right needle. I'm going to purl it, pull that off, and then put both those stitches on to the left needle and turn my work. Now we're going to knit across the row again to the next single stitch before the double. Okay, here's the single stitch before the double. We're going to pick up the bar that is below. So pick up the bar that's below, place that on the needle, knit just that stitch, pull it off, and then put that back on the left hand needle. And now in this stitch you can see there are 2 stitches coming out. turn your work and purl across the needle. Okay, one single stitch before the double stitches. You're going to put that onto your right hand needle, pick up the stitch that's below, purl, pull it off, and then put both of those stitches back on to the left needle. And that is how you do the shadow wrapped heel. You will want to continue until there's an equal amount of stitches that you've worked on both sides, as well as unworked stitches on the top. So it's going to look like this. So I'm about here, and I'm working my way to here. Then I will turn my work and start working the stitches that I'm currently doing to increase back to working in the round. That's how I start my shadow wrapped heel. Okay, so that's it for the socks. I also started another project. And this one had been on my plate for 2 months, maybe, almost 2 months. So I wanted to get it started. I have somebody waiting for it. So, and it's a hat, so it should go pretty quickly. Now there is a little bit of a story behind this yarn, and I may get part of it wrong. So Corey, you'll have to correct me if I do. So Corey asked me to use this yarn that had been spun up out of 2 of her dogs, I believe. And one of the dogs was a fawn blonde color and the other one was brown. So the person that she had spin the dog hair spun it with both of them together. So it's kind of striping a little bit. This is dog hair, and it is specifically Afghan dog hair. So Afghans, as some people know, and maybe you do as well, they have very long hair, almost longer than my hair. So it is probably great for spinning. I didn't spin this myself, so I don't really know how the process went and if it was easy or hard or what kind of challenges the spinner had. But so this was interesting. I did start the hat, and one thing about this is I'm not sure if the person who spun it also washed it afterwards, because as I was trying to knit with it, it slightly felted. And I don't know if that's because of the dog hair or if it was how it was washed. I really have no idea. So I'm trying to be careful with it a little bit. It actually wasn't too bad to knit. It just, when I would pull out a strand, it would pull on the other yarn like it was felted. But it feels really good. And this is the first time I've knit with dog hair, so I don't actually know like what the challenges are of dog hair, you know, and if it compares to wool, I imagine it being different because hair is very different than wool, both in texture and quality and probably processing, I would imagine. So anyway, here's the hat. Now this is one skein of yarn that was spun up. So I'm hoping, this is about 4 inches, and I'm planning to go to 8 and then do some decreasing. I'm hoping I have enough. There's 3 skeins in there. So if one skein does 4, then 2 skeins would do 8, and then the other skein would be for the decreasing. So I should have enough. Now I did a 2x2 ribbing to start out. So I knit 2, purl 2. I did that for 2.5 inches, and then I just started knitting. So I did this at knit night this week. I cast on and I got this far before knit night was done. So in 2 hours I knit 4 inches basically. Now this is super soft, really nice feeling. It feels like it almost feels like alpaca. It's got that sleek, soft feel to it. Doesn't feel woolly at all. Anyway, so one thing about this is I don't have dog allergies, but this, for some reason, as I'm knitting it, some of the hair is falling out and, you know, going like this. It's kind of like mohair, actually. It poofs. And so it gets in my nose and just tickles the dickens out of it. So I apologize if I'm scratching too much. Anyway, the yarn itself is a little thick and thin. So I did use a size 5.5 millimeter needle, which is a US 9, I believe, to accommodate the thicker parts of the yarn. But then as it comes to, so the thinner parts that are in there, they're a little see-through. And I'm hoping that with the blocking at the end, that maybe the yarn would bloom a little bit and fill in those areas. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And not having used this before, I don't really know. So that's what I'm hoping for. What else about this? It has a lovely halo to it. Very reminiscent of mohair. So, and it feels warm. So I guess we'll have to see, you know, over the winter how it actually feels, but yeah. So that's it. I should have this finished by next week. So yeah, I'll show you the finished project before handing it off to Corey. But yeah, I do like how it's patterning. It's kind of a marled look on the knitted section. This part, it is more sectioned out, but I don't think it looks bad. So anyway, yeah, there you go. Afghan hat. And I drop a stitch. Nope, I'm good. Okay, so that's it for the hat and the socks and the macrame. Okay, so there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, And I had mentioned it in either the last episode or the one before that. And that were the two patterns that I had purchased from Knitty McPurley that I was super excited to get started on. So I have printed the patterns, and next I'm going to pick out the yarn. And the first one that I purchased, actually she had one that was for free, the Vesper sweater, and I wanted to support her, so I bought another one. She is a great maker, and she does awesome jobs on designing different garments and things like that. She also dyes her own yarn, so you can check her out at knittymcpurley.com, I think, maybe. Don't know. You can find her on YouTube as well. So the first one here is the Potomac worsted. Now there are two versions of this one. You can purchase the worsted one, or you can purchase the either fingering or DK. I feel like it might be fingering, but I'm not sure. So there are two. This one is a cardigan, and it's a longer cardigan that goes down past your waist and hits maybe just below your butt. And I have two cardigans, and they hit at my waist. So I wanted one that was a little bit longer, a little bit more snuggly and warm. This one also has pockets. So that's pretty cool. I've never actually knit with anything and added pockets, so I'm kind of excited to try that out. I love learning new techniques and working those into patterns and stuff. So that will be a new technique to me, is the pockets. So this calls for worsted, which I want to use my own hand-dyed yarn for this one. And I was initially thinking gray. So the only, okay, so I did some dyeing for a custom order. And in that process, I dyed two batches that didn't quite, they weren't light enough. I was trying to get light pink, and you know, with natural dyeing, it's a little dicey. So I have those 10 skeins actually. And they're slightly different shades of pink, but I could, you know, I think it's called helical knitting, which means you knit with two different colors. Not two different colors. You knit with two different balls of the same yarn, especially if it's naturally dyed or indie dyed. That way your variations, or the variations in the two different yarns, aren't as noticeable. So helical knitting, I might look that up and see and do it that way, so that maybe it would blend a little bit better. But that's pinks, and I had originally wanted to do this in gray. So I'm not 100% on that yet. So that's the Potomac worsted. The next one is the Vesper sweater, the one that I got for free on her website. And this one is, it's a striped sweater. You knit it with either Surrey alpaca or mohair. She uses kid mohair and silk. Ooh, that would be nice. And then the other one is, oh, she used it. Oh, okay. Didn't know that. So her other one, she calls it Trinket. It's the yellow color there. That is actually sock yarn. So it's fingering weight. It's superwash merino and nylon. So, and then she pairs that with the mohair and silk. So that's pretty cool. I was thinking I was going to have to use, I have a organic fingering single ply, and that's what I was thinking of using. So, and I have several different colors of that would be fun. Yeah, so that's this one, the Vesper sweater. And so I did purchase the mohair, and I purchased it natural, which is what she's done here, I think. Oh, it is a colorway. It's the bougie colorway. So she did dye that. I may not do that. I may, because natural mohair is just a light cream color. And so I was thinking of pairing it with either a blue or a pinky purple or an actual like dark purple color. So, although recently I dyed this dark gray, oh man, it's stunning. And it's sock yarn, I think. So I could use that. That would look really nice with this. So that is kind of my, at least I've printed off the pattern. Now I just need to pick out the yarn and then I'll be good to go. So, yeah. All right, guys, I think that's it for this week. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. We have family coming into town this weekend, my aunt and uncle, and so we're having a big party. All my family's getting together, and we're having a big barbecue, which will be fun. There's tons of kids, and my son will enjoy that because he's an only child, so he enjoys his cousins very much because of that camaraderie. So it'll be a good time for everyone. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.